Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, 28 years after it's released, the worlds of Super Mario Bros. 3 are finally being ranked. Definitively, it's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm concerned about my posture.
We both did a thing during the opening theme music there where we sat up straight. Both of us.
Yeah.
Like up straight.
Well,
You and I are tall guys, by the way.
we are fairly tall.
And when we both sit up straight, the table
We're
seems smaller.
huge.
Yeah.
No, it's hard sitting up straight all the time.
Yeah.
Like at work, it's very difficult to sit up straight and be comfortable
Yes.
and be close enough to things.
Have you ever sat in one of those gaming chairs?
No, I haven't. Does it force you to have good posture?
It forces pretty decent. I guess not force. You could slouch in it if you really tried. But it encourages good posture. In a comfortable way. The only one I guess I've sat in a couple, but the one that I was making note of how comfy it was. They had one on display at C2E2 in Chicago, and they wanted you to post selfies of you in the chair to win one. And I regret to inform you, Mark, that I did not win one of these chairs.
But you did post the selfie.
Of course, and I used the hashtag, whatever it was. So I did everything I was supposed to do. I don't know why I didn't get this chair. What about standing desk? Have you ever tried this?
Yeah, standing desks, totally into it.
Totally into it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it for 2 days, and then on day 3, I'm like, I want to sit down.
What about a desk you can put up and put down?
Like a
the Grand
modular
Old Duke of York.
Well, that sounds lovely, but who has the time or money for something like that?
Great point.
Okay. Before we get any deeper into this episode and this topic, which of course is ranking the worlds from Super Mario Bros. 3, a couple of things. One, we would love for you to rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, to rank us highly.
Right, and definitively, whatever ranking you give us, just like however we rank the worlds, that'll be definitive. So if you give us 5 stars, we are a 5-star show in perpetuity forever. So thank you for that. It helps us to be discovered and all that good stuff. One other thing that you can do that we would appreciate, Mark and I are going to talk about the 8 best role-playing games to come out on Nintendo platforms. Mark, when is this happening?
August 2nd, and we need your help.
Why do we need your help, you ask?
There's so many RPGs.
There are so
on
many
Nintendo
RPGs.
platforms.
The Game Boy Advance, basically all that thing was RPGs.
SNES,
Basically,
RPGs for days.
For days. And the DS, don't get me started. I forgot about The World Ends With You until this very sentence. That's such a good game, and I was going to leave it off the list before this sentence.
That's right. So we have to narrow down of all the RPGs on Nintendo platforms to the 8 best of all time, and we need your help.
So you should write in with your favorites to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at
gmail.com. Tell us why they need to be included. Or if you want to be like, I don't want to see a Golden Sun game on this thing, you got to tell us why.
Yeah, Dragon Quest, more like Dragon PU.
Oh my gosh. And also, maybe we should call it Dragon Warrior, right? Because that's how I played it. It was Dragon Warrior. Kids these days.
We're old.
Look. It came with my copy of Nintendo Power.
Oh, yeah, that makes you sound much younger.
All right, Mark, let's get into it. Let us rank the worlds from Super Mario Bros. 3. Ground rules. I want to lay them out first. We are just talking about the 8 main worlds from the original release and I suppose All-Stars version of Super Mario Bros. 3. This means we are not including World 9, which is the warp zone, which is cool, but like, how are you going to rank that?
Yeah.
And it is not including World E.
Right. None of the e-reader stuff.
None of the e-reader stuff.
So that means we have
Mm-hmm.
Grassland in order of appearance in the game.
Right.
Grassland, Desertland, Waterland, Giantland, Skyland, Iceland, Pipeland, and then Darkland.
Okay, so to represent these for our purposes, we've pulled out some amiibos.
We're visual learners.
We are visual, and look, it is fun for us, and I don't know, maybe indifferent for you when we have something in front of us to help us move around and determine what's best and what is not. So I would just like to walk our listeners through,
please,
the various totems that we are using to represent these worlds. Representing the grassland is Donkey Kong. Specifically the Donkey Kong from the Super Mario Brothers amiibo series.
Fitting.
Self-explanatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's from the jungle. Jungles are like grass. It's green. Some of these connections are looser than others. Next, we've got Urbosa, the champion of the Gerudo from Breath of the Wild, representing World 2, the desert land. And coming up right behind her is Mifa, the Rudo champion. Rudo?
No, Rudo's the bird.
Rudo's the bird. They are Zora, the Zora champion from Breath of the Wild, representing Waterland.
Then we have a Yarn Yoshi representing Giant Land.
Because he's big.
Yeah, he's like a Thanksgiving Day balloon.
That's right.
Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
That's right.
A very specific part of Thanksgiving Day. Not just a regular Thanksgiving Day balloon.
I mean, I also think you just have to stop saying Thanksgiving Day. Don't we just call it Thanksgiving?
We do, unless it's the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
That is weird.
It doesn't make any sense.
I've never thought about it before.
And then Pit is our representative for Skyland.
Because he has wings.
Mm-hmm. Probably the one that makes the most sense. We have KK Slider for Iceland because he is cool as ice.
Mm-hmm. And then representing Pipeland, we have the Metroid amiibo because it's on like a little bit of a canister. Which
yeah,
looks like,
you could kind of use it. You could use this amiibo as a bong if you wanted.
Right, or as a shot glass. I've actually seen people do that. And, a Metroid is not unlike a Piranha Plant.
Yeah, great. That's a great point.
And then, of course, bringing up the rear, the Darkland Bowser's domain is being represented by Bowser himself, but decked out in his Super Mario Odyssey wedding attire with his fancy white hat and white tuxedo. So these are the players. This is who we have to rank the worlds from Super Mario Brothers 3. Mark, do you have... I don't know about you. I did not prepare for this at all.
I mean, I don't have a list.
I also do not have a list. I suppose, in a way, we have both been preparing.
We've been preparing for it for 28 years.
Exactly.
I feel very prepared
as
in that way.
Do you have any early favorites or any early that you're like, I just want this one to be near the bottom of the pack?
I've got one to bring up the rear.
Okay.
And as much as it hurts me to do this because I love KK Slider, I think Iceland is not very much fun. I think a little bit of the slippery physics goes a long way.
Yeah. Ice, like slippery platforms are one of those things in video games that like I know we still do and they still appear in like every platforming game, but I'm not sure why we like it.
I don't think we do. I think it's merely like a trope of the genre that at this point you're like, oh, we're making a platformer. Okay, you have like, maybe it's going to be windy.
Right.
And we're going to have we're going to have a fire level, we're going to have an ice level, and the ice level is going to be slippery, even though nobody likes it.
No one likes it. You think when they're going through like the design process, someone's like, hey, would this ice be slippery? This is slippery ice, right? And someone's got to be like, oh, man. Yeah, I guess this is a slippery icy level.
Yeah. No, I do not care for it. So that's my nominee for worst.
So here's another thing about, because I will agree that I think it should be towards the bottom. I don't know the very bottom, but maybe you're right. It is far enough along in the game and not the final level that it is one that I didn't play very much as a kid. That by the time I got to World 6, I was warping to the end, if not earlier, right? So World 6 and 7 for me, Iceland and Pipeland got the least play for me when I was a kid.
Pipeland for sure. For me, it was like far and away the one that I played the least as a kid.
Yeah, and Pipeland even today there are times when I get to it and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And like I always know what I'm supposed to do in Iceland. It's just grueling and I'm just dying a lot. Or I get somewhere and I'm like, oh, I need fireballs to, burn the ice or whatever. I suppose you melt it. So I will agree that I would like the ice level low on our list. I think another one that I would want to put low is the Waterland. There are things that I like about the Waterland, but for as much as I don't like skidding around, I also don't like swimming. There is an auto scroll swimming level in World 3 where you have to like swim between just like some stationary jellyfish, and there's like a big fish like swimming back and forth. That just stresses me out and I don't like it.
I don't care for that level. I also so when we got the NES Classic Edition and I was trying to play Super Mario Brothers 3 using like the original controller, I found the level, it's like early in World 3 where you see the big fish for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that one infuriating.
That's like 3-2 or something. That's real early. Yeah, where he's just like jumping up out of the water and it's like everything is like going up and down.
Yeah, like the tide rises and
yeah.
I found that level very infuriating. One area that I'm going to say that World 3 is very cool. The water level's really neat is how you can like use a hammer to
get to the canoe,
to get to like the canoe, and then like canoe over to the like mushroom houses, and like the card and stuff like that, and you can all and you can go all the way over there and like see where the castle is and all that kind of stuff. It felt super cool.
Yeah, and that one also has a lot of the like raising and lowering of bridges between worlds, which I'm trying to think of like when else that actually comes into play. But like there are times where you're like, oh, I want to go to that Toad house. Oh, I can't because the bridge is up. I have to go play another level and then I can cross over it, or whatever. And then also it matters where you encounter the Hammer Brothers, because if you run into them on the map in a space that has water on it, then you fight them in some shallow water. And if you're little Mario, if you're not big Mario, it's like really tough to fight them in the water because you're like swimming through it.
Well, and it's possible to like avoid certain levels, or like sometimes the Hammer Brothers, because you're using one of those bridges.
Right.
And then if you die on the
right, then you had to go back and the bridge goes up.
Right, exactly. So yeah, no, or if you die in the like boom boom fight, or on the what are those called, like airship?
Yeah.
In the airship level, the airship will travel, and it's possible that you won't be able to like get to where the airship has landed.
Oh yeah.
Until either the bridge comes down or you complete a level that you didn't complete previously.
Right. So there are some things about like the overworld map of the Waterland that I think are cool. Okay, let's just start sort of ordering things.
Yeah, I mean, I think
in a preliminary way.
Yeah, I think Waterland is. I think the first couple levels are not super fun, but once you get out of those like first 5, I think it gets pretty neat.
You think it gets pretty neat? I think there are. Okay, so the level with Spike in it, and I think it's the only time. No, I guess he appears other parts in the game too. But like the first time that you meet Spike and he's like spitting those balls out and throwing them at you, that level is stressful. And that's one of like the deeper worlds in there.
So stress is your big concern here.
I guess
you find World 3, you find Waterland to be stressful.
I don't. I find the water parts of it to be boring, and the reprieves from the water parts to be stressful.
Okay, I think that's fair.
But so just preliminarily, we are putting Iceland at number 8 and water at 7, though, with the full knowledge that either of those can move at any time. Where do you want to go next? Do you have any like favorites or like levels that you're excited about? in this list?
Well, I'm trying to figure out my feelings on Giant Land
Okay.
because I think visually it's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like when you encounter it for the first time,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
a
mind blowing.
whoa. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that like the level design is all that fun.
Yeah, and there are like the levels in there that like I guess it's maybe just the one where you're switching back and forth between like giant and normal size.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's one of those things that I've never figured out like, oh, it's better to do this way or like I should be normal here and then giant here. It's just like kind of random and just sort of the game showing you that it can do both. You're like, okay, but what's the point of this? Um that being said, the novelty of like the Fat Hammer Brothers, they're so good, Mark.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, you're trying to figure out where you like to put them.
Right, because I'm not sure if like my love of it is just like the novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that the platforming itself is all that special.
Sure. Well, maybe we can set it aside for a second because I think for me the sort of middle of the pack here is grassland, desert land, and giant land. That would be the middle, and then the remaining sky, pipe, and dark would be in my top three. I don't know how you feel about that. Or I mean, what are your thoughts on like grassland? It is the most common, the world that you've played the most, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also its own special kind of iconic.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I would actually rate Grassland a little bit higher than you, if only because I think even though it is like beginner levels,
Yeah.
it does such a good and thoughtful job of introducing you to all of the mechanics pretty much of Super Mario Brothers 3. Um, like in those first 3 and 4 levels, you see so much. You have like the auto scroller,
Mm-hmm.
the first time that you can drop drop behind the map and
Mm-hmm.
you can get a warp whistle.
Also,
Um
the first time you can fly
yeah,
is so early in that game.
yeah, it's in the very first land
Yeah,
or the
very
very first
first world.
world.
Yeah.
Um
Level? What are we saying?
level. Well, let's go with level.
Right.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to uh I agree that it's not the most inventive,
Mm-hmm.
but for me it would rank pretty high up there.
Okay. Okay.
I think the desert is very middle of the road.
Yeah. I mean, what's notable about the desert? What do we think is good or like cool about the desert? It's got that sun chases you level,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun, and I've noticed that in 2018 has become a meme about like how hot it is, right? So be like, remember the sun from Super Mario Brothers 3 that tried to kill you? That's today. Um, so obviously that's something that has like burned itself in all of our collective memories and imaginations. What else is cool about the desert land?
Was it the introduction of Chain Chomps, or did Chain Chomps exist previously?
Oh, that's got to be the introduction of Chain Chomps. I think you cracked it. And Chain Chomp, as we all know, is like the best character in Mario Tennis Aces, right?
Not that we will let that sway our ranking.
Oh, I disagree. I would say that any and all other things can sway my ranking. I am not going to be focused maniacally on just Super Mario Brothers 3. If my opinion can be swayed by any outside source, it will be. Do you remember the Chain Chomp with the bow in Link's Awakening?
Yeah,
You had to like find the bow for her and like get some dog food or
it's
something.
a really good Chain Chomp.
That's probably my favorite Chain Chomp. But other than that, other than the intro of Chain Chomps and a sun that's trying to kill you, um, yeah, I would say that the desert land is maybe near the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah, and the world itself, like we were giving some props to Waterland for doing something interesting with the overworld. Desert Land doesn't really do that. There are a couple of branching paths, and it is the first time that you like run into, like you said, that's the sun level, where
Right.
even like the icon for it is a little bit
It's
different.
different. Yeah, it just looks like some kind of like quicksandy
Quicksand
thing.
type thing.
It also does have the level that's like World 2 dash pyramid, and you never encounter pyramids anywhere else in the game. So like, I mean, this is all going to be hard because this is a phenomenal game, and all of the worlds are basically good except for Iceland. So yeah, let's tentatively put the desert land in at number. Oh, you want to put it behind Waterland?
Yeah, because I think that Waterland at least does something interesting with the overworld.
Okay, I will agree with that.
There was something transgressive about getting into that canoe for the first time,
Yeah, and just
like
moving
feeling
all
like
around the
you
map.
could just like you had like found something.
I would, I agree with that, and I think we can let this ranking stand. But I would also say that there is something a little bit transgressive about when you reach the upper right corner of World 2 and use the hammer and discover that there's like a third screen of that level that has just a hammer brother, like a fire hammer brother, and a toad house in it. That's one of those things where you're like, whoa, there's just more of this map here. Um, and they're both exciting, but like, yeah, the canoe where you're like, well, I'm gonna go through these streams now, or go check out the final castle and then have to loop back around is pretty cool.
Waterland also introduces us to the frog suit.
Is that a plus or a minus?
It's a plus. You'll need it later, or it's helpful later in Dark Land
To get past that,
in like the boat level.
yeah, that boat level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is
You clearly do not like the frog suit.
I don't. The only thing I like about the frog suit is the giving yourself that extra challenge of beating a one of the airships so that the king can mistake you for a frog and be like, "Oh no, we need to get the magic wand so we can change you back too." I think that's cool. All of the three different suits have like the kings say different things to you. Forget what they say if you're the Tanuki suit, but if you have the Hammer Brothers suit on, they try to buy it off you, which is funny. I don't know. They're just like, yeah, Mario looks cool with that helmet and like throwing hammers. Like, let me buy it from you.
Also, the Hammer Brothers suit was probably my least favorite. So, just another check in the Iceland at the bottom column.
Oh, sure. I always associate the Hammer Brothers suit more with Pipeland.
Interesting.
I think you do get it earlier in World 6, but like, I don't know. I just feel like with the arc of the hammers, that is more useful to knock out piranha plants and stuff like that. And also you can duck and be protected from the fire they shoot at you. All right, so this leaves us with we've only ranked 3 of these so far. What do you think about Giant Land going next here?
Yeah, that feels right to me. And then I would okay. So here's the thing: is I'm surprised Pipeland is at this point would be going as high as it is.
So
High middle is where Pipeland is going at the moment.
or in the upper half.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will defend its position here, partially just by novelty, because I didn't play it that much as a kid. But I think as a consequence of that, that's the world where I feel most like I have the most rewarding play sessions as an adult. That I am like have to take a second to like think about what I'm going to do, or be like, okay, so there's that one part where you have to like get a star, and then like you're running across those like little bitey plants, then you have to like knock another star like out of its box, and then wait until the very last second for your star to run out so you can grab another star and keep going. Those kinds of things, and those platforms that like raise up
I love
in those like vertical levels, and like you hop on them to like make
change
the
direction.
arrow. Yeah. Those are so cool, and like I don't know, all of that is so exciting and challenging that even now playing the game 28 years later, it still feels like fresh and challenging.
Another thing that's fun about the Pipe Land, I was about to call it world and then level.
It's gonna be tough. We're all over the place.
Pipeland. Another fun thing about Pipeland is like, a lot of the levels, and especially those like beginning levels, are very like vertically oriented, and so it does that fun thing where if you run to the right, you come out from the left-hand side.
I love that. Yeah. Which feels very original Mario Brothers, not even Super Mario Brothers. And I mean, there's also just something very cool about the theme of the level, which is so Mario-y, right? Like, there's no other game that you would be playing where you would come across a pipe land, right? That can only happen in a Mario game. Whereas, like, the rest of these are, ice. I was gonna say snow, ice, snow, flurries, skiing, snowmobile.
But yeah, like water.
Yeah, all of these like elemental things, and then Mario's like, "Nah, this one's different. This one is um, pipe." So that's why I would like to place it higher on this list. If that's where it's gonna go, I think that's okay, and I'm happy with it at number 4. Are you thinking that there's something else that should be in that place?
I Grassland was the only thing that like really comes to mind. Although I'm looking at like
What's left here?
I'm looking at what's left here, and I think it makes sense that these are like the upper half of it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your pitch for Darkland to be like number 2.
So I for me, I think Skyland and Darkland are number 1 and 2, and I don't know which order. So Darkland, I think, is cool because of the first of all, almost every world is like a unique experience, right? Every level in it is a unique experience. This one is a barrage of tanks. This one is a barrage of boats. This one is a fleet of little airships. This section is you're going across like some weird bridge and maybe a hand grabs you and you got to like do some weird obstacle course or like fight a bunch of Hammer Brothers or something. And then like, something like 3 or 4 screens into this world and you start to get to a numbered level. Like, you get to world 8-1, after you've been playing it for like half an hour. And it all just feels like so epic and appropriately dark, right? Like when you go into the outside levels, the sky is black. And even the features that you're used to seeing as like green or whatever are just like weird, almost surreal white outlines. These hills that used to be like luscious green things are just like ashen white, and like the hills are enormous, right? They're mountains suddenly, and it's all so big and crazy. And it has Bowser's Castle at the end of it.
Which, not to burn a potential future ranking episode, but maybe the best Bowser's Castle ever.
Yeah, that's a very good Bowser's Castle. Second, maybe only to Mario Kart 8.
And it's a really good final Bowser fight.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then the fake out at the very end where it's like the princess is in another castle.
Right.
Ha ha ha.
She
just
laughs
kidding.
at you.
Uh-huh.
You're like, stop it.
But actually like got at me when I was a kid.
Did it really?
And my sister like beat it for the first time.
I like that a lot, that it actually worked on you. I think I don't know. Was trying to remember what my first impression of it was 28 years ago, Mark. Who can remember?
Also, I still think like the lasers that shoot out of Bowser's Bowser statues, like Mal's like looks super cool.
Yeah, it looks super cool, sounds super cool. On the subject of sound super cool, the overworld music in World 8 is cool. And yeah, I don't know, just everything about it feels like the game means business.
And I think you may have already touched on this, but just the idea that it's like it builds to this, and the World 8 is so different from anything that like came before.
Yeah.
Like immediately the challenge is there. It's weirder, they're like the hands that are grabbing you and stuff.
Yeah.
There's just like so much going on. Like it feels like you're building to something climactic, which I don't know that any of the other Mario games like really do in the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. And there's also, I mean, to go back to the idea of warping, yes, we've probably Grasslands is the level that we've played the most, followed, I'm sure, by Desert Land. But then after that, like somewhere, by World 2, you've you can have 3 or 4 warp whistles. Like, you're getting out of there. So like the Dark World is one that I have also played a ton because there's no skipping it. If you are playing Super Mario Brothers 3, you're playing the Dark World. So it's for as challenging as it is built into my like muscle memory of the game. So it's scary, but it also feels like home to me.
It's also one of like I would say well balanced
Mhm.
because it is challenging, but you know you can use any of your power ups that you've earned.
Right.
So you know if
Use them P-Wings.
use the P-Wings, but even then there are certain levels that like P-Wings won't necessarily help you through. Like you're not really going to be able to use P-Wings for the whole thing.
Yeah. And there are levels in that in World 8 that I always use a P-Wing for. The one with the Armada flying airships.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
one is miserable.
It's a nightmare to try to play it without a P-Wing, right? But it's one of those things that you like keep in the back of your mind. You're like, that P-Wing I just earned here at the end of World 1, I know where I'm going to use it. So yeah, it is near and dear to my heart as something kind of special there.
So Skyland is also really cool because it's like 2 worlds,
Mm-hmm.
2 lands, I guess,
Yeah,
in one,
separated by a weird tower.
which I've always assumed is like some riff on the Tower of Babel.
Maybe
How they've like built it so they could
Into
get
the
into
sky?
yeah, so they could like get into heaven.
and fight God. Maybe this is a little bit like the story of Nimrod or Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy. You can see our earlier episode about weird games that we played with Greg Smith. Who knows he's bad, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I always assumed it was one of those things that like one of those biblical things that got lost in translation basically and turned into
and got
this,
like
video
super-
game like
yeah. Got super muted throughout the process because Nintendo didn't want to offend anyone
right.
by including religious imagery. Yeah, it could be. Just like whatever that strange narrative is. Like that's the only world that has like a little bit of a story to it, where you're on the ground, you climb this tower, and like the level that is the tower is very strange, right?
Yes.
Like the music is like kind of like quiet and scary, and it goes back and forth between you like first you're inside a building and then you're kind of like outside, like climbing around on the top of this thing, and then you're like up in the clouds. It's all very strange.
There's also in that level there are like lights that are orbs that are hanging from the ceiling, and as a kid I always thought those were nooses.
Oh my god, that's dark, Mark. No, they're just lights.
Yeah.
They're just nice looking lights, little chandeliers or something. And then come on, once you get up into the clouds, then the levels get like cool and strange and challenging. There's that level with the like little flying beetle guys that like when you land on them they kind of dip, but then they start to rise again. And it's just a whole world of like there's no floor to it. You just have to like ride these beetles forever, which is a super cool and challenging thing. That's where the is it Cabrico the boot? What's it called?
Yeah, we always called that the sleeping bag level.
Okay, tell me why.
Because we didn't think of it as a boot. We thought of it as like jumping into a sleeping bag.
Look, there's a power up in this game that you can only get in one level. What? And it's a giant wind up boot that you steal from a Goomba. What is happening, Mark?
Skyland is also where you get like the or is it all Tanuki suits that you can turn into a stone statue?
Any Tanuki.
Okay.
But I think that's where you start to really encounter them. There are some Tanukis near the end of World 4, or maybe just the one. So you don't really have the opportunity to like start using them until World 5. And then I feel like there's so World 5 also has that I think it's the penultimate like the level right before the airship that is sort of a vertically scrolling level where you're just like riding platforms, and there's that like flying cannonball thing that
has a trail of like fire.
Yeah,
it is that level is challenging.
Yeah, that's a tough one
because there's some jumps you have to make where like the platform you're on is going vertically or no, horizontally,
Mhm.
and you have to get onto a platform that's going vertically, and so you have to time your jump very specifically
Yeah.
and do one of those like impossible Mario physics jumps where you jump one direction and then
And
loop
then
back
correct
around.
it, right? And a lot of those jumps where you have like one opportunity to do it right, and if you
Oh,
don't,
then you're super dead.
then you're super dead.
And you can jump on the cannonball
Mhm.
to make it like die, but another one's coming for you.
Another one is coming
It's just
for
a
you.
few seconds
Mhm.
reprieve.
So I like Skyland a lot.
Yeah, Skyland is definitely uh up there with Darkland.
Okay, so do we agree then that maybe Grassland should be coming in at number 3?
Yeah, the only thing that I was wondering with Grassland is after we were talking about Pipeland so much,
Mhm.
if we wanted to switch the position of those, like should Pipeland be 3?
With Grassland being 4, I would agree with that 100%. I hold Pipeland in pretty high regard, and I know Grassland is obviously iconic, and everyone has played it, but like the Pipeland is just so much more exciting.
It is more exciting. I will say, are we like leaning too heavy towards like, oh, but this one's challenging?
I mean, we have to look at this game as 30-year-old men in the year 2018 who have played this game a million times.
We talked about standing desks. We're so old.
It's true.
But you're right.
Pipeline's coming in at number 3 because we're the ones making this list, and it's definitive. It's definitive. This list reflects us and also the absolute reality. Okay, so that means that the top of our list is the last part here that needs to be decided. Skyland v. Darkland. Can you make an argument for one over the other? Mark.
I'm really struggling with this.
It's tough, right? Like, I think they're both awesome worlds, and I'm super excited to play either. When I was a kid, my preferred path through the game was to play up to World 5, Skyland, and just play whatever levels I felt like playing until I got like frustrated, and then warp to the end, because then I would have enough power ups to weather World 8. Which means that I didn't always finish World 5, but would always finish World 8. I don't know what that means for which one I like better.
You know, so I think I look forward to Skyland more than I look forward to Darkland.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like there is the boot level that will forever be the sleeping bag level to me.
Absolutely.
There's the weird like tower into the sky.
Yeah, and honestly, that's preceded by a level where you're just like falling as well, right? Where you're just like falling into like some weird water pit, which then becomes like some weird ice cavern or something. Yeah, I think I gotta go Skyland.
Yeah,
as number 1, and then Dark as number 2.
Yeah, I feel really good about that.
All right. So our definitive ranking of the Super Mario Brothers 3 worlds, levels, kingdoms,
who knows?
galaxies, coming in at number 8 is World 6, Ice World. Coming in at number 7 is World 2, Desert Land. Coming in at number 6, World 3, Waterland. Coming in at number 5, World 4, Giant Land. Coming in at number 4, World 1, Grassland. Coming in at number 3, World 7, Pipeland. Coming in at number 2, World 8, Darkland. And coming in at number 1, your best, definitively, world in Super Mario Brothers 3 is World 5, Skyland. Mark, I think this is a great list.
I think this is a great list, and when you were reading it at the end, it sounded like one of those brain puzzles that's like, and what was the name? What was the eye color of the bus driver?
That's right, because you were trying to add all these numbers together, and you should just remember that you were the one driving the bus. All right, Mark, we've come up with a definitive list here, but if anyone wanted to, add to it, I don't know how you would add to it. There are only 8. If anyone has a problem with this list, what can they do?
Email us.
They can email us by sending an email to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
All right, Mark, we did a great job here. I say we close this out. Okay, and that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like the show, please share it on Facebook and Twitter and wherever you can share things. We love all of that. On Twitter, I am at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. And you can find us on Facebook, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, just warping to the end. Thanks for listening.
Campfire.